Hey there, good evening, happy New Year, happy holidays, happy everything. Nice to see you. It's time for the Bronx Buzz. This is Bronx Net's program where we talk to reporters and writers and journalists and editors and all different people putting stuff out in the Bronx so that you can know what they're thinking about when they put stuff out and we get a little more information too. And in our second segments, we usually do something kind of funky, music or art. And we got a real nice music program that is not only because it's an R&B group, but they're doing it in senior centers in the Bronx, which is interesting. Maybe a good story for our first guest. It is Steven Goodstein from the Bronx Times. Nice to see you again, Steven.
Thanks so much for having me, Gary. I appreciate it.
Just to let people know, Stephen is a reporter for the Bronx Times, and he'd been away. He had left, I guess, right before the pandemic. Everybody was making things smaller, and Stephen was one of those. But now he's back. Can we talked about it beforehand? But what'd you do after you left the Bronx Times? I mean, you're a good reporter, but you didn't do reporting, did you?
No, and as we had talked about previously, Gary, when these things happen, you kind of just have to roll with it
Right.
and, kind of just weather the storm a little bit. So, one of my best friends, he owns a landscaping business and brought me on for a couple of years, and I made a nice little career. But I knew my heart was in
Career for
reporting.
3 years,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
A short 3 year career.
Right, right, right,
Yeah,
right.
very very short tenure. But I'm just thrilled to be back at the Bronx Times, and the Bronx is really where I love to be and where I love to report. So
So here we are.
it's just a thrill. Yeah.
Yeah. I mentioned to you that, it's kind of you get a chance to see kind of real life and live a different sort of life than a journalist does. But the fact is, I think it's instructive for people watching to know, especially now with media short condensing things and it's not an easy time for reporters. And so this is what you do. And when you have a passion for it, like Stephen does, he's back. He's back and he's a better man for it. Anyway, let's just talk about really one of the biggest stories of the year. And it came about just a few weeks ago. And that was more than 100 people were displaced from that Bronx building collapse over there on Billingsley Terrace in Morris Heights. Happened December 11th. You wrote about it. Where are we at? Thank goodness we'll all agree that nobody got hurt. But this is, it's not good that this happened. Let's put it that way.
No, no. This is a very sad type of scenario. I mean, you think about being in New York City, and Mayor Adams stressed this point earlier. Is we have hundreds of thousands of buildings in the city, and to think that one of them might be insecure, or to think that one of them might even collapse, partially or entirely, is just a frightening concept. And I've spoken to people over there, residents who live by there, and they said that there must have been someone like a higher power or something with those
Because
people in that building.
it's unbelievable that nobody got hurt. I mean,
Unbelievable.
it,
Yeah,
it
thank
it is
goodness.
unbelievable. I mean, we all saw the pictures. You could see the bedrooms, and you could see people's beds. I mean, somebody could have been laying in bed. I mean, or whatever, and
Yeah,
that didn't happen. But listen, as it's unraveling now. You posted the link to the violations. I mean, I pulled it out. 177 complaints, 103 violations. The building had been charged, fines for all kinds of things. That kind of thing happens all the time. There could be buildings in the pictures behind me that have those kinds of issues, and yet this is the end result of stuff like that, isn't it?
yeah. Well, DOB had told the Bronx Times and myself that a lot of these violations didn't have to do with the particular collapse, but I'm reading other publications now saying that there was a bearing. There was like a weight bearing issue with one
Yeah,
of these
load bearing
columns. Yeah,
column.
load
Right,
bearing
right,
columns. Thank you.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So, but as of right now, the site's still being cleaned up. I mean, trying to go over there last week for interviews and stuff, it was hard to even get onto that street
Right.
because a giant portion of it was blocked off on,
Well,
Billingsley.
so now the city has suspended, the engineer who did inspect it, and, apparently, he, said it was a decorative part of the structure when apparently it was central to the structure. So that's, could literally be human error, and that the city, because I've been doing this even longer than you have, but many years ago, a lot of the talk was that we didn't have enough inspectors, and that's why the housing stock was so crumbling. Now, of course, it's 20 years older than then, so there's more problems. But the fact is, there was somebody who inspected it and possibly should have recognized that previously.
Right, right. And I mean, I'm not an engineer, I'm not part
Of
of the
course,
Department of Buildings, but um, I can venture to say that that's something that has to be, that's something you have to get right,
yeah.
especially with people's lives being at stake. And again, just thank goodness no one was hurt or seriously injured.
S
But
so
you
so
know,
then, Steve, what's happening to you wrote that there were 100 residents displaced. I mean, the Red Cross and others are working to figure out what to do with them, but, it can't help the housing crisis. It can't help the homeless crisis. Goodness gracious, we hope nobody
yeah.
goes homeless, but these things, are gonna occur, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, to have multiple reception centers,
Mhm.
I mean, it just shows what the Red Cross is doing, what the neighborhood is trying to do. It's just a real telltale sign of how neighbors can be there for one another. I believe one of those reception centers is at Bronx Community College. The other one, I believe, PS 396, MS
Mhm.
390. So, it's just really showing of how the neighbors, looking out for one another.
Listen, without taking that too far, the fact is in the Bronx, so much stuff happens, and I have found that this is who we are. We understand community better than everybody else because if we didn't have it, we'd really be in trouble. Anyway, let's talk about something much more uplifting. And you also wrote about one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite Bronx places, of a lit bar, which of course came into play after Barnes and Noble closed over there in Bay Plaza in 2016. And then our buddy Noel Santos opened up the Lit Bar. But I was not aware till I read your story that there are a couple of other bookstores in the Bronx. I mean, she, to her credit, had been identified as the only bookstore in the Bronx. But you talked about a couple of other literary facilities.
Yes, yes. And Gary, to be quite honest with you, when I was writing the story, it was initially to highlight that was the only bookstore or literacy space in the Bronx. And come to find out, I had one of my colleagues, Et Rodriguez, had found out some key information about another bookstore called Idoka Books, and
Right,
um, another movement called Bronx Bound Books, which is actually operating out of a kiosk in the Bay Plaza where Barnes and Noble was. So
right.
you see that Noel and the Lit Bar had really that's really kind of started a movement here
Started
again in
a
the
small
Bronx.
movement. Let's be clear now, it's Adokia, not it's Adokia?
Adokia.
Adokia,
I
'cause
apologize.
I'm looking at it and I'm unfamiliar, but I'm definitely gonna visit. So they opened in 2022 in Mott Haven, and, I have seen Bronx Bound Books, and, they have the vans, and I've been to any number of farmers markets in the Bronx where we've seen them, and I was unaware that they had some kind of brick and mortar facility, but they have something. Is it a van that they have permanently over at Bay Plaza? I mean, is it a bookstore? I mean, they lend out, they're just wonderful. Kids, you see kids around their vans and everything else. But
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the Bronx Bound Books is located, I believe, on the third floor of the Bay Plaza shopping center, kind of near the like the food,
the
I
food
guess,
court.
the food
Yeah,
court. Thank you
yeah,
so much.
sure.
Um, and um, and yeah, just really great to see more of these, more of these the book, bookstores, or
I wonder here's a story for you. I'm going to give you an assignment. I'm not your editor, but I'm
Oh,
giving
great!
you an
Oh, please,
assignment.
hey, hey, I'm
I
I'm
wonder
taking
what
taking time.
I wonder if we could somehow, probably never really measure, but measure the effect of not having a bookstore on the psyche, on the academic level of the people of the Bronx. You probably can't measure that, but you could look at culture and say, well, what are the elements of our culture in the Bronx? And there's no question, not having a bookstore where kids can go and imagine, et cetera, et cetera, and sit and look through books. And mommy can, instead of buying a toy, will buy you a book and you'll sit there and choose the book. I mean, that has got to have effect on human beings and how they live and who they are. And especially, I'm always thinking of kids and how they develop.
Absolutely. We talk about now the need for libraries in the borough, even though so much of literacy is digital. Whether you have your Kindle, or you're reading on your phone, or you know laptop, whatever. But there's still a need, at least in my opinion. There's really a need for these facilities, because um, that's really that's really the art of learning, and to be able to go
Absolutely.
into to be able to go into a library and have a hardcover book, and to have all these things versus just everything is just there
Absolutely.
ready at your fingertips.
I'm going to give you a firsthand example. Well, the fact is that I was looking for a book for my granddaughter, and I said, what better place to go if I want to get her a Bronx book than the Lit Bar? So this is the book, and again, oh, it's in the in the virtual background. It's going to be transparent, but the name of the book is "Love Makes a Family." This is what I'm sharing with my granddaughter. Think of what the effect is of that on a 2.5-year-old girl, and she wouldn't have had the opportunity if we didn't have the Lit Bar in the South Bronx, right?
That's right. Also, you can't wrap a book digitally. You're gonna have a
or
fun
or
time wrapping
you
that.
you can send it even from, we talked about Barnes and Noble,
That's
from
true.
Barnes and Noble or Amazon, but that's not the same as when I see her and I'm going to say, "Here's my transparent book."
Oh my
Anyway,
You're
Steve,
gonna love it.
listen, we're thrilled that you're back. We're thrilled that you're back at the Bronx Times, and we need real reporters, and you are a real reporter, and we're going to look forward to reading what you write and also having you back on the Bronx Buzz at some point.
Oh, great. Gary, thank you so much.
Okay.
Bronx Buzz, it was a pleasure.
Say hello to ET, Camille, and all my buddies over there, and Laura and everybody else.
Oh, I will. We
And
love you.
what? Okay, thank you so much. We're going to take a short break, folks, and then when we come back, we're going to bring rhythm and blues to senior citizen homes. What could be better? We'll be right back.